Alright guys, welcome back to another episode here on Grow the Earth. I'm Tommy, and we're out into the garden today. And today's kind of a special day because we get to start transitioning our summer garden, our spring and summer garden, to our fall garden. And being here along the Gulf Coast of Texas, it means that we get to grow a variety of plants in the winter to where we don't have bugs affecting them and so forth. As long as we don't get a real heavy freeze, we're usually pretty good to go all the way through the year. Us transitioning over to our fall garden is actually relatively easy because we use a no-till method here. And so that means that our bed prep usually means taking out all the old plants, picking any weeds that we have or whatnot, adding fresh compost to our beds to top them off, adding our fertilizer, and we're off to the races. It's the bed behind me is only going to have to be fertilized, but the bed here in front of me, you can see, is getting kind of low, so we're going to have to top it off with some compost to get it ready. But today I wanted to kind of go over what we're going to be growing here in the garden for a fall garden. Kind of give you an idea of why we grow these plants now at this time of year, and just to give you guys an idea who are growing in the same zone of what options you have available to you that grow at this time of year. So what I've got is I've got some seed packets here of what we're going to be planting in our garden, and I'm just going to go through those with you. And like I said, I'm going to point out some things that I think would be beneficial to you guys who are, especially ones who are growing in 9A. And you know, if your zone is up or down from that, you're going to vary a little bit as to what you're able to plant, and actually probably your planting times. Here in 9A, we're going to be planting probably the last week in September into the first week of October is when we're going to be planting most of this stuff. So we're going to bring you guys in, and then we're going to go through what we're going to be planting for this fall garden. All right, guys, so the first thing on our list, and this is one of the things that I look forward to at this time of year, well, one of the many things actually, and that is carrots. Now, we actually grow a couple of different varieties of carrots, but these are the short and sweet carrots. Now, these are going to, they're a little bit shorter of a carrot, so if your soil is not quite as loamy as you would like, these still grow very well because they don't have to go very deep. And these are also going to do well in your elevated beds, you know, to where you're only dealing with 6 to 8 inches of soil and you don't have access to the native soil underneath. You don't have to worry about having 15 to 18 inches worth of soil. These guys only get about 3 or 4 inches long, so you can grow them at a fairly shallow amount of soil. So that's our first thing, is carrots. And then we have sugar snap peas. Now, yes, you can grow these at other times of year, but down here in 9A, we can grow them in the fall into the winter because most of the bugs that affect these are usually not around. They've already kind of moved on, and we can grow these very well, and the sun is not so scorching that it burns out the plants. It's just an all-around better time of year. Another good time of year to grow these is in early spring. So like right after your first frost date, if you get some of these in the ground, they'll do relatively well, but they don't grow very well in the summer. And again, these are another thing that we grow at this time of year, which is radish. Now, again, you can grow these in spring, and if you use a shade cloth, you can grow them into summer. But in the fall, going into the winter, they grow really well. Another good thing about radishes is they only take about 30 days from plant to ripe. So you can bang out a lot of radishes if you really like them in a short amount of time, and they don't take up a lot of space. And this will work very well also for you guys who have, you know, a balcony garden or something like that. Another good note about radishes is the greens, they grow on top of the radish, are just as good as the radish bulb itself. Sometimes better, depending on, you know, what you like. And of course, one of the absolute favorite things that we like to grow at this time of year is spinach. Number one, spinach grown whenever it's cooler outside is much, much sweeter of a salad green than one that's grown during the summertime. In the summer, they tend to become more bitter, and also you have more bugs that affect them and so forth. Usually we can grow spinach in the fall time, and we don't have any bugs that really affect it at all. It grows well all the way up into if we have a heavy frost, but even then, when it starts getting cold, the spinach is not affected. And it will continue to grow and continue to put out until it finally gets so hot that it bolts. So with spinach and with some of the other greens that we're planting, we'll get a harvest all the way up in until February or March to when it starts warming up and it starts bolting. We actually have to just tear it out. So spinach, another good option. And then we have, well, I'm just going to go ahead and lump these together because we have our lettuces and our kales. Now, kale is one of the things that we like to have this time of year also because it's such a prolific plant. These you can pick from multiple times. We have a purple kale here, and we also grow a green kale, which I don't have the packet for here, but the purple kale is a more compact plant and the leaves are a lot smaller, and the green kale we grow is usually a much larger plant and has a lot larger leaves and so forth. Both very, very prolific plants. Again, if you pick from the bottom up, you can pick kale all the way until the freeze kills it or summer comes around. And our lettuces, we like to grow many different types of lettuces. Again, this is another thing that you can grow at different times of year, but during the fall especially, and into winter, the lettuces become a lot sweeter and a lot tastier, in my opinion. And in the fall and into the winter, also, the bugs that usually affect it are usually not around. So we get an easy crop here. And this is one also that we're going to go on in another video when we actually start planting this, probably next week or in the week after. We'll show you a method that I actually picked up from another YouTuber called M.I. Gardner that is a space savings for these and will also help you in producing more of these tasty lettuces that we can grow during the fall. Easier, and we'll get more out of it, and it also makes picking it much easier. So again, we have a red romaine kale, a butternut butterhead, a ruby red lettuce, and my particular favorite is the tango leaf lettuce. And again, all these grow exceptionally well, especially here into the fall. Now, another thing that we get to grow in the fall, and of course you can grow these at other times of years, but cabbage especially grows very well in the fall and in the winter. You have less bugs. Your cabbage loopers and so forth are not around as much during the winter time. And we actually, the first year that we grew cabbage, we grew it in the spring going into the summer, and it just got absolutely decimated by the cabbage looper worms. But we grew it in that fall, and the lettuce heads the cabbage heads came out almost perfect. So we grow a Copenhagen Market Early, which is a smaller cabbage, and the Mammoth Red. We love the Mammoth Red. And there's also a Mammoth Green that we grow that is absolutely awesome. And I will tell you that a cabbage that you grow during the fall and into the winter in the cooler months will have an absolutely entirely different taste than one that was grown during the summertime. If you go grab a cabbage from the store and you have that bitter taste, and when you cook it, it has that smell to it. If you've cooked cabbage, you know that smell I'm talking about. This has an entirely different taste. It does not have that smell when you cook it. And it is just a glorious cabbage. Now, one thing also, and this is one that we've actually not had much luck with, and it has to do with our plant times. and that is Brussels sprouts. Now, Brussels sprouts, you got to get them in the ground a little bit earlier so that they have time for their plants to get to a certain size before we start harvesting Brussels sprouts. And also, another key is we have to pull the leaves off of these as they grow, as the sprouts start to appear, so that they can turn into a Brussels sprout. Again, this is not one that we've actually had any luck with, but we keep trying it. We're hoping that one day we can get good Brussels sprouts. And also we have broccoli and cauliflower. Now, if you've been paying attention, a lot of these seed packets, and I've even got a Ziploc bag here with seeds in it, because we've got them from multiple different places. Broccoli, cauliflower grow well in the fall and in the winter. A lot of the bugs that would normally affect it. Also for the fact that the part that you harvest off of a broccoli and off of a cauliflower is actually a flower. Hence the name. And once it starts getting too warm, they go to seed very quickly, and that part that you eat actually starts flowering. But in the fall, these guys, we can get very large heads, and they won't go to flower because it's not warm enough yet. So again, another thing that we like to grow during the fall. Another note, broccoli and cauliflower, the actual plant itself, not the heads, but the plant itself is actually more nutritious for you and can be cooked and treated like any other green. You know, if you're a fan of mustard greens or something like that, they cook up just like a green. So guys, of course, there is more stuff that we're going to plant, but that was just a quick idea of what we're going to plant here. Now, a lot of you guys are going to be thinking, okay, why are you going to be planting this so early? So we start our fall vegetables really early because we were starting them so late in our earlier years. Some of this stuff we weren't starting until mid-October and sometimes into November. And what was happening is the plant itself would never grow fast enough to where we were doing any amount of real harvesting before the spring and the summer were here. Or we would get that last freeze that we usually get in January, February, that would kill everything off before we ever really got to harvest anything from it. But these plants, they do grow well in fall and in winter, but they can be planted earlier in the year, in this time of year where it's still warm, hot outside, because they get that initial burst of sunshine and heat to get the plants up and get them to a decent size. And as it cools off is when it's going to start producing its fruit and its flowers, which are going to be better and tastier. So with transitioning from a summer to a fall garden, we have to keep in mind that everything is timing. We have to have enough time to get the other stuff out of here to be able to prepare our beds and to plant our seeds at the correct time. And then the same thing with God, He has perfect timing. When He comes into your life, it's at the perfect time. Whenever He adds things to you, it's the perfect time. When He takes things away from you, it's the perfect time. Now, we may not feel it's the perfect time because we always want everything right now, right? But if you're in the Lord and if you're in God, then you will understand that His timing is always perfect. And if He hasn't given you what you've asked of Him, it's because the timing wasn't right. That there was something that was holding that back. And there's a reason He is holding that back. So don't get discouraged whenever the things that you're needing or you're wanting or that you've asked God for that haven't come yet. Because His timing is perfect, and it always is. It always will be. But sometimes we get a little antsy, or we are asking the wrong way, or we're asking for something that we don't necessarily need. When you don't receive something that you've asked for, there's a reason for it. And you should probably thank God that He didn't give it to you, because there's a reason He hasn't given it to you yet. So guys, as always, I ask you to pray over your garden, pray over your family, and have a great day.